Um, my, my grandfather's yahrzeit today, so
Shabbat shalom.
I give a learn in the schus of Binyamin ben Moshe Dov Zecher Tzadik Livracha.
Okay, that's good. Um, okay. Um, where am I? Hey, Tess. There's no difference between a Kohen Gadol appointed with the oil of anointment and the one who donned the additional vestments acceptable office for violation of any other precepts. There is no difference between a Kohen Gadol who is serving a Kohen Gadol who is no longer serving except the bull offer on Yom Kippur and a tenth of the ephah. There is no difference between the laws pertaining to a major bummer and those pertaining to a lesser bummer, except as regards the Pesach sacrifices. There's a general rule that any sacrifice which is a vow offering or a gift offering may be brought on a bummer, but any sacrifice that is not a vow offering or a gift offering may be not brought on a bummer. There is no difference between the laws pertaining to the tabernacle of Shiloh and those pertaining to the temple in Jerusalem, except that in Shiloh one was permitted to eat Kodoshim Kalim and second tights anywhere within the site of Shiloh. But in Jerusalem one was only permitted to do so within the walls, both here and there Kadoshim were permitted to eat only within the curtains. After the sanctity of Shiloh, Bamas were permitted, and after the sanctification of Jerusalem, Bamas were not permitted. It's funny, we're just doing
Oh,
this
it's
in Jerusalem.
Bamos. So we were talking about the heter. I thought it's not the makom. It was the heter of Bamos. Sorry, I told you the wrong thing yesterday. I was reading. I mean, what I told you yesterday was true, but that wasn't actually the intent of the Mishnah, according to what you just
Okay.
read over here.
It's funny. We were just doing this last time at Caruso in New York. We're doing Tamora. So there's a section in there when you, at the end of the third parak, it talks
Hmm.
about this bummer and Shiloh and the whole thing about. So interesting. Okay. You're
Okay,
up. Okay.
and I'm up. Okay. Hakore es ha-Megillah lemafreya. Okay, if somebody reads the Megillah backwards, well, not necessarily, not literally like word by word backwards, but he reads one paragraph here and then reads another paragraph backwards. Can you say, okay, well, all told, I read the whole Megillah, just read it out of order? And the answer is lo yatsa. Nope, that's not right. You have to read the Megillah in order to be yotze. Qira'a al peh. What happens if he read it by heart instead of from a scroll? Qira'a targum. If he read it in Targum Arami, for example, if he read it in Aramaic, um,
Right.
or any other language other than Lashon HaKodesh, which it's written in, and he doesn't understand that language. Um, Even though the Megillah is written in the language that he wrote it in. Remember, we said previously that Megillas can be written in any language, and there was one opinion that they could only be written in Greek,
Right. Right.
whereas tefillin and mezuzahs have to be written in Ashoris. Okay. In all these cases, you're not Yotze. You're not Yotze from the mitzvah of reading the Megillah. Since we learn this from a pasuk Hayimahem Nizkarim in the pasuk in the Megillah. Um, it also says in in Sefer Shmos, Ksov zos zikaron b'sefer. Write this as a remembrance in a scroll. In other words, that's written by Amalek, by the way. And we learn by Gezer Shava that Zechira is talking about just as the scroll of Amalek must be written in a sefer in a proper scroll. So similarly, reading from the Megillah also has to be done from a proper scroll in Ashuris. And if you read it, uh, okay, so if you read it by heart, he's not Yotzei. However, if he read this Targum L'chol Lashon, um, uh, wait, no, so that was forget my however. I thought I saw a comment over here which I didn't see. Okay, never mind. Aval korin osa lelo azos belaz. However, says the Mishnah, you can read it to somebody in their home language, right? In their vernacular. So if you had to translate the Megillah into English and write it in English, um, that would be an interesting thing how that would work. Okay, in but the Megillah has to be written in that language. So if you were in a pinch and you didn't have a kosher Megillah,
Mhm.
but you wrote a scroll of the Megillah translated into English. That would
Right.
actually be that you'd actually be Yotzei on that. Okay. V'lo es sheshama ashuris yatsa. However, if somebody only speaks English, they don't understand Hebrew, and they come to shul and they listen to the Megillah being read in Hebrew, they Yotzei. That's the way it's supposed
Right.
to be done. So even though they don't understand, but any other language, you can only be Yotzei if the scroll is written in that language and you understand it.
The the script is in that language, English, let's say,
Yeah,
and
and you
you
understand
have,
it, and
you
you
have to
understand the
understand.
English. You have to understand the English.
So if someone's reading in Hebrew, like someone from me, like me, if someone's reading it, the Megillah in Hebrew, but I'm just following the English script, but I'm
But you're
listening to the
following,
Hebrew.
well, I mean, it doesn't matter what you're following as long as you're hearing it.
Right. Okay. All right.
Okay.
I guess that's why Art Scroll has a market on
Okay.
the.
Mishnah Base. Kara'a Seirogin Umisnamnim. What happens if he's reading the Megillah? I guess this is not happening in a shul reading. He's doing it, he's sitting by himself at home reading the Megillah in order to be Yotze, and it was a rough night. And honestly, you can actually picture such a thing where like I know this from my son-in-law who volunteers for Hatzalah. And sometimes he gets called out at night, the most crazy times, and he comes home and he's just finished. He
Right.
sleeps in the next morning and whatever he's davening by himself.
Right.
Okay, so here's a guy who was on call the previous night and completed a Shem mitzvah, whatever, and now he's busy reading reading the Megillah to himself in the morning, and he's falling asleep while he's doing it. Okay, Yatsa, still okay as long as he's
If you
doing
look
this
around
in
the
order.
shuls, if you look around the shul sometimes and see who's listening to Megillah, you see a lot of people who are like dozing off. The
So
same way.
maybe that's why we clap for Aman, so people won't fall asleep.
That's also true for Laning, though, for Sefer Torah. I see a
Mm,
lot of people fall asleep in
but
this.
there's no mitzvah to hear the Sefer Torah.
Right. Okay.
Whereas Megillah, you literally have to hear
Yeah,
every word.
right.
Okay. Haya Kosva Dorsha Magia. So here's a guy who's busy writing a Megillah on Purim. Great, it's a great thing to do. He's a sofer, and he's busy writing a Magia, or he's busy checking a Megillah. And Dorsha Magia, v'im keven libo yatsa. If he is doing this and says, you know what, while I'm checking or writing this Megillah, I'm going to say it out loud, and that way I'm going to be yotze. So im kiven libo yatsa, v'im lav lo yatsa. But if he's just done checking it without any specific intent, he's not yotze his obligation. Isaac Suva Besam Vesikra Vekomas Vekankantum. Okay, so it's not written in ink. It's written in one of these substances, which you'll have a better translation for them. What are these? It's always like ferrous sulfate or something like that. What are the things?
Sulfate is parchment. It's ferrous sulfate. It doesn't. It just says
Uh,
ferrous sulfate.
Yes,
Gum,
ferrous sulfate.
vermilion, or orpiment, vermilion gum, sulfate, ferrous sulfate, or on paper,
Okay,
unfinished
or
paper.
on niar ala diphthera, or on unfinished parchment, which is it has so in all these cases lo yatsa ad sheteheb kesuva ashuris ala sefer ubadio. So the Megillah itself must be written in Ashuris script. That is, if you're notwithstanding what we said before about in the previous mission about it possibly being in a different language, but if it's in Hebrew, it's in Ashuris. It must be on a sefer, in other words, in a scroll on parchment scroll and with ink.
I found, by the way, ferrous sulfate is known as copperas or vitriol. It says.
Aha, literal.
This is known as copperas or vitriol.
Right. So these things are. So what's wrong with these different inks that aren't ink? Um, it's they're not. Well, it says some is a kind of an orange clay, or that sometimes you could write a short message with, or Sikra is a kind of a red paint. And Comos is Straf Ilan. It's resin.
Hmm.
Um, So I guess it's not normal things to write with. Okay. Gimel. Ben
Oh, it
Ir.
says now it says nowadays it's customary to make the ink for sacred use from a combination of ferrous sulfate, gall nuts, and gum arabic, which form a stable, thick black compound.
Hmm.
Mr. Brewer,
That's
32A.
interesting. So actually,
Okay.
by itself, it's not kosher, but for but when mixed with other things, it becomes okay.
Hmm, okay.
Interesting. Okay. Um, Ben Ir, one who lives in the city. In other words, a walled city.
Right.
Okay. Shehalach lekrach, and he went to a city that's not got a wall. Or ben krach
Hmm.
shehalach le'ir, or vice versa. When somebody changes their location for Purim. Im asid lachzol imkomo. So if he is planning to go back home, korel kimkomo, then he must read according to the place where he is going to be. So wherever you sleep, in other words. Um, Im lav kore imahen. But if you're staying there for the full day, then you become like one of those residents for the day, and you've got to read the Megillah with them. Mehechan kore adam es Megillah. So from which point do you have to hear the Megillah in order to be Yotze? So if you walk in late, can you be Yotze? Um, Rabbi Meir Omer Kula says, forget it. If you if
Or
you if you missed Vayihi b'mei Achashverosh, you're
that's it.
done. Okay. Rabbi Yehuda Omer Mei Ish Yehudi says from when Mordechai is introduced. So Ish Yehudi, this is that's somewhere. Wait, what pasuk number is that? It's somewhere in the first parak, right?
Let's
Um,
see. Uh,
so it's in the second parak. Sorry, it's in the second parak, right? When Esther is introduced, right? Ish Yehudi, okay. Rabbi Yossi Omer me achar hadvarim ha'ele. That's in parak Gimel. That's when Haman gets promoted. Okay, and halacha is like Rabbi Meir that if you missed Vayihi b'mei Achashverosh, you're gone.
It says here, by the way, that Reb Meir says you have to read all of it. Reb Meir explains that I can see this Takuf refers to the power of Ashereris. Therefore, one must read the entire Megillah, which begins with the description of the vastness of Ashereris' realm.
Hmm.
So,
Yep, and that is the halacha.
okay, all right.
All right, time is Gimel Hay.
Okay. Let me see. Uh, Gimel. For all these plagues, we sound the shofar everywhere for wind. We sound the shofar everywhere for wind blasts, for yellow grain, and for numerous locusts, and for finishing locusts. But for a wild beast or for the sword, we sound the shofar on this occasion because each is considered a traveling plague. It once happened that the elders descended from Yerushalayim to their cities and decreed a fast because of wind blasts of the size of Ovid's mouth was seen on grain in Ascalon. They further decreed a fast because wolves had devoured two children beyond the Ayudain. Rabbi Yossi said the fast was decreed not because they had devoured the children, but merely because they were seen in the city during the day. In these cases, we cried even on Shabbos if the city was surrounded by hostile Gentiles or by a flooding river or a ship by storm. If a ship is storm tossed at sea, Rabbi Yossi says we may call upon the people to assemble for assistance, but not for supplication. Shimon the Timnite says also concerning pestilence, but the sages does not agree with him.
Yeah.
You know, my cat stares at you the whole time when he's just
I know.
staring at
I'm
you.
just seeing the top of his head.
Yeah, you can't see him there. He stares at you when you read.
Yeah.
Wow,
Is he
wow,
fascinated with me?
yeah, wow, guy. Okay, there we go. On to there he is. On to
Very clear.
Beta. This is Aleph Tess. Beishami says we may not send presents on Yom Tov with the exception of ready portions. But Basil says we may send domesticated animals, beasts, or fowl, whether live or slaughtered. We may send wines, oils, flowers, and pulse, but not grain. But Shimon says permits grain to be sent. We may send garments, whether sewn up or not sewn up, even if they contain a mixture of wool and linen, because they enhance the enjoyment of Yom Tov. But we may not send a sandal, its spikes, nor an unseen shoe. Rabbi Yehuda says not even a white shoe may be sent because it requires a craftsman. This is the rule. Whatever can be used must be sent on Yom Tov. There was a thing over here that said even if it contained wool and linen, but you couldn't wear that; it would be shotness. On Yom Tov, even it says
Yeah. Okay. So let's just look in that again. Where is the
Yes, despite the fact that one may not
Yes,
eat.
Bahim Kilaim. Okay. Yes, but it's okay. Nonetheless, it's possible to use them on Yom Tov for something that's not a clothing wear.
Like
Um,
sitting.
yeah. So if it doesn't warm the body, then you could sit on them. Correct.
So the sages forbid even sitting upon such garments, lest the portion of the garment curl up and cover part of one's body.
Hmm.
However, if the garment is hard and stiff, one may sit upon it.
Hmm.
Okay. All right.
Carry
Okay.
on, base Aleph.
Okay. When a Yom Tov falls on Friday, a person may not cook on Yom Tov primarily for this for the Shabbos, but he may cook for Yom Tov, and if anything is left over, he may be left for the Sabbath. If one should prepare a dish prior to Yom Tov and depend on it for the Sabbath, Shammai says two dishes, but hate meals they still says one. Yet they agree concerning a fish and egg on it because they are two dishes. If one um, ate it or was lost, and one may not depend on it to cook primarily for Shabbos, but he left any of it over, he may depend on it to cook for Shabbos. Okay, for the Shabbos, for the not on Shabbos, for the Shabbos. Erevin.
Mm-hmm.
Erevin, we have Yud Test. A person may not stand in a private domain while unlocking in a public domain, or while in a public domain while unlocking in a private domain, unless he makes a partition 10 to from high. These are the words of the mayor. They said it would happen that at the butcher's market in Jerusalem, they would lock and place the key in a window above the door. Rabbi Yossi says it was the wool merchant's market. A door bolt, which has a knob at its end, Rabbi Eliezer prohibits its use, but Rabbi Yossi permits it. Rabbi Eliezer, it happened that in the synagogue in Tiberias, they were accustomed to permit this until Rabbi Gamliel and the sages came and forbade it to them. Rabbi Yossi says they were accustomed to forbid this, but Gamliel and the sages came and permitted it to them. A doorbolt which drags on the ground we may lock within the temple, but not in the provinces. The one may rest on the ground if permitted here and there. Rabbi Yehuda says one which rests is permitted in the temple, but one which drags even in the provinces. Okay.
Okay.
Here, let me just see 12. Okay. Still have a way to go. And we are into Dubai. Dubai.
Sign base.
Let me see. Right. If they once they have filled this cup, he declares, one shall I leave at the bottom of the cup shall be Meiser, and joining it to the rest of the Meiser, which I rendered Meiser, shall be true at Meiser for them, and Meiser Shani at its mouth, and is redeemed with money. If a laborer does not trust the employer, he takes one dry fig and declares, "This is not this and nine after it are redeemed mice for the 90 that I will eat. This is rendered truma mice for them, and the last is truma mice sheni and is redeemed with money." And he saves one dried fig. Rabbi Shimon ben Gil says, "Let him not say because it reduces his work for the employer." Rabbi Yossi says, "Let him not say because of the conditions stipulated by the court." If one binds wine among Kutians, he declares two logs which I shall separate are truma and 10 miser, miser and 9 miser sheni. He redeems it and drinks. Okay.
Okay.
Let's see, 5. We're going to finish this tomorrow. No, we're not. We still have. We are going to finish it tomorrow. No, really Sunday we'll finish. It's today, Friday. We'll finish it tomorrow. We have one more to go on Shabbos. So where do we go after Demai then?
After Demai is Kilaim.
Okay. Line again. Okay. We'll say it until we get it right. Halem. Okay. Yud Aleph Dalet. Regarding a piece of tamei iron that was mixed with a piece of taro iron, if the majority is from the tamei source, the newly formed utensil is tamei. If the majority is from the taro source, the utensil is tahor. If it is half and half, it is tamei. And the same applies to a utensil made from llama and cattle dung. A doorbell with a knob is tamei, but if it is lift plated, it is tahor. A pin, tumbler, and bowls are tamei. And regarding a bolt door with a knob, Rabbi Yehuda says, and Yeshua says, it may want to drag it from this door and hang it on another door on Shabbos. Rabbi Tarfon says it's like all of the utensils and may be carried within a courtyard. A bit of bridle is tamei. A bit of bridle is tamei, but the cheek pieces are tahor. Rabbi Eliezer rules the cheek pieces tamei, and the sages say nothing is tamei except the bit. But when they are joined, everything is tamei. A whirl made of metal, the Rekiva rules a tamei, but the sages rule the tahor, and the plated war is tahor. A spindle is the staff, a rod, a symphonia, and a flute. If they are made of metal, they are tamei, but if they are plated, they are tahor. However, if a symphonia has a receptacle for valves resembling wings, It is summary in either case. Okay. And we are on to, so we're doing Kalayim next, right? Kalayim.
Yeah.
Right. Gil. We may write a get for a man even though his wife is not with him, and a receipt for a woman even though her husband is not with her, and the borrower pays the fee. We may write a document for a seller even though the buyer is not with him, but we do not write for a buyer unless the seller is with him and the buyer pays the fee. We do not write documents of betrothal and marriage except with the knowledge of both parties and the groom pays the fee. We do not write a sleepwalking contract or a rental contract except with the knowledge of both parties and the tenant pays the fee. We do not write documents of designation of any court judgments except with the knowledge of both parties and they both share in the fee. Rabbi Shimon Gamliel says the two of them write two documents, one for each party. One who paid part of his debt and gave his loan documents to a third party and said to him, if I do not pay you between now and such a day, give him his loan document. If the time came and he did not pay, Rabbi Yoshi says he should give him the document. Rabbi Yehuda says he should not give it.
Okay. That's it.
Okay. All right.
All right.
Okay, great. Have a great day.
You
Enjoy.
too. Good day.
Relax. Okay. And